There are 3 points I'd like to address in Governing Body Update number 1 for 2023 that was hosted by Mark Sanderson. The claim that Bible studies increased by 30%, the new Pioneer Hour requirements for 2023, and that Jehovah is supposedly speeding up the work. Let's begin.
Since June 2022, when we returned to in-person forms of the ministry, we've been hearing exciting reports from the field. We've seen a tremendous increase in the number of Bible studies. In fact, worldwide, we've seen an increase of nearly 30% since May. That means that now more than 1.5 million new Bible studies are being conducted. Isn't that wonderful?
You've probably heard the phrase, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, let's change that to lies, damn lies, and Watchtower statistics. He touts a nearly 30% increase in Bible studies, or 1.5 million more studies since May. Everything must be great in Watchtower land, right? Well, notice the Bible study totals for the previous 10 years. They peaked in 2016 at 10,115,264 and remained at over 10 million studies in 2017 and 2018 before sliding to 9.6 million in 2019. Then studies fell off the cliff the next 2 years, all the way down to 5,908,167. While it's understandable because of the pandemic, wouldn't you think the Almighty God would be able to do something about it? Didn't he stop the sun for Joshua? So Sanderson said there was a 30% increase, or 1.5 million more studies, because that sounds really good, right? It's how you spin figures that aren't favorable. For 30% to mean an increase of 1.5 million, that gives us a starting figure of 5 million and an ending total of 6.5 million. But if the 2022 report showed 6.5 million Bible studies, why wouldn't he just tell us? That would be a very healthy increase of about 600,000 from 2021, more than any annual increase posted in the last 10 years. Why pick the month of May as a baseline to compare against, unless it was the lowest monthly figure and you wanted the increase to look exceptional? As I was working on this video, the 2022 figures were released on jw.org. Look at their Bible studies for last year. Only 5,666,996. That's a drop of 241,171 from 2021, the 4th consecutive year of year-over-year declines, and down by 4,448,268 from the peak recorded in 2016. Instead of simply telling us the 2022 figures they had ready, Mark tried to obfuscate the decline by presenting cherry-picked statistics. The 2022 service year ran from September 1st, 2021 to August 2022. So we don't know the Bible study figures from September 1st, 2022 until the time of this governing body update. Those few months after the service year must account for the bulk of the increase, but we don't know for certain because Mark Sanderson never gave firm figures. Still, they'll need years of incredible growth to just reach the levels they were once at. The way the organization always spins and presents the statistics reminded me of the novel 1984. There are similarities between the book and how Watchtower is run. If I didn't know any better, it's like the organization were following it as a playbook. How everyone is watched and turned in by each other. Big Brother always watching like Jehovah. How the Ministry of Truth is like their public information department or writing department. The thought control used, and how they constantly revise their history and language. All the supposedly fabulous increases in the figures reminded me of this portion in 1984. The fabulous statistics continued to pour out of the telescreen. As compared with last year, there was more food, more clothes, more houses, more furniture, more cooking pots, more fuel, more ships, more helicopters, more books, more babies, more of everything except disease, crime, and insanity. Year by year, and minute by minute, everybody and everything was whizzing rapidly upwards. Does that sound familiar to the way Watchtower portrays everything within the organization? Back to the governing body update.
Recently, it was announced that regular pioneers will once again have an hour requirement, effective March 1st, 2023.
Here's some context to the pioneer hour situation. The governing body removed the hour requirement for pioneers back in August 2020. Hour requirement for pioneers and missionaries. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly affected the ministry of pioneers and field missionaries. The governing body understands the challenges and does not want these faithful servants to feel pressured to meet an hour requirement. Thus, until further notice, regular pioneers, special pioneers, and missionaries are not expected to reach a specific hour requirement. We are confident that all will do their best. We hope this provision allows our hardworking pioneers and missionaries to continue to find joy in their service during this challenging time. Then last month, there was a letter read that the hour requirement would be reinstated again, but no exact details. The letter to the congregation stated, "Hour requirement for regular pioneers." After prayerful consideration, the governing body has decided that regular pioneers will once again have an hour requirement. Effective March 1st, 2023, we pray for Jehovah's blessing on your work as you resume a full schedule in the vital work of preaching the good news and making disciples. Back to the governing body update where Mark will specify the new hour requirements.
Pioneers are now busy looking at their schedules and planning how they'll be able to meet the hour requirement. The governing body, though, is realistic about the world situation. Many branches have reported that pioneers are struggling to meet their hour goal because of the rising cost of living. And many are contending with natural disasters, unrest, and war. In 1999, the governing body considered the situation of the pioneers. The January 1999 Kingdom Ministry said, "We have observed the mounting difficulties faced by pioneers, especially with regard to finding part-time secular work that will allow them to care adequately for their personal needs so as to remain in the full-time service. The present economic situation in many lands has also made it increasingly difficult for others to enter the pioneer work, even though that is their heartfelt desire. During recent months, these and other factors have been carefully considered." Because of those factors, the governing body decided back in 1999 to adjust the hour requirements for the pioneers.
In August 1999, a few months after the change, this is what the governing body reported brothers and sisters were saying. "What a blessed gift from our Heavenly Father. No words can convey the emotions of joy, love, and gratitude for this provision. It will make meeting our schedule so much easier. Our prayer is that many more will now take up the full-time ministry and enjoy the blessings that come from serving Jehovah in a large way. As we approach the climax of God's day of salvation, it is evident that Jehovah desires his people to give a final, mighty shout of praise. When they revised the hours and I saw the comments in the 1999 Kingdom Ministry, again, I was reminded of the parallels in the novel 1984. For the moment, he had shut his ears to the remoter noises and was listening to the stuff that streamed out of the telescreen. It appeared that there had even been demonstrations to thank Big Brother for raising the chocolate ration to 20 grams a week. And only yesterday, he reflected, it had been announced that the ration was to be reduced to 20 grams a week. Was it possible that they could swallow that after only 24 hours? Yes, they swallowed it. Parsons swallowed it easily with the stupidity of an animal. The eyeless creature at the other table swallowed it fanatically, passionately, with a furious desire to track down, denounce, and vaporize anyone who should suggest that last week the ration had been 30 grams. Syme, too, in some more complex way involving doublethink, Syme swallowed it. Was he then alone in the possession of a memory? The video continues.
Now, 24 years later, as world conditions continue to deteriorate, the governing body sees that our pioneers are facing similar challenges. Therefore, we are very pleased to announce that the governing body has decided to adjust the hour requirements for pioneers effective March 1st, 2023. You may want to get a pen or something to write this down. Are you ready?
Why is he so giddy as he's announcing this?
Here are the new requirements. For regular pioneers, the requirement will now be 600 hours per year. That is an average of 50 hours per month. For auxiliary pioneers, the requirement will now be 30 hours. But notice this. This is very exciting. During March and April, and during the month of the Circuit Overseer's visit, publishers can choose to auxiliary pioneer with a reduced hour requirement of 15 hours. This should make it possible for many more of us to share as auxiliary pioneers during those months of special activity. What about special pioneers and missionaries? They will now have an hour requirement of 100 hours per month. Sisters who are serving as special pioneers or missionaries and who are 40 years of age or older have a reduced hour requirement of 90 hours. How should we view these adjustments? This is powerful evidence of the great love and tender concern that Jehovah feels for his people.
Isn't this meme accurate? Jehovah's Witnesses are thanking the governing body for reducing an arbitrary number. Can you imagine Jesus telling his disciples to track and hand in their field ministry reports each month?
We want as many as possible to retain their precious privilege of serving as pioneers. And we feel that these adjustments will make it possible for many more to consider taking up the pioneer work. Since the number of people requesting Bible studies is increasing worldwide, there could never be a better time to expand our share in the ministry. If you are serving as a pioneer right now, we hope that you'll continue. If you're not yet serving as a regular pioneer, would it be possible for you to do so? And with the memorial season just ahead, no doubt all elders, ministerial servants, and publishers will prayerfully consider if they can auxiliary pioneer. Can you do so? We look to Jehovah to bless all of these arrangements to his glory and praise. Yes, may we all continue to do our very best to find those who are rightly disposed for everlasting life. We love you all very much.
Is this an arbitrary number? Where did they come up with specific hours for pioneers? Would you believe that they claimed it was the Lord himself who told the Watchtower organization through the faithful and discreet slave how many hours they should preach monthly and how many times each territory should be covered annually? The July 1st, 1943 Watchtower states, "Every organization requires specific instructions for all those who serve in it. In the past, the Lord issued his organization instructions to his servants through his central agency or channel. Each one joyfully accepted his part therein and faithfully carried it out. Now, the apostle says, Jehovah speaks to us through his Son. The Son has returned as King. He has come to his temple. He has appointed his faithful and wise servant, who is his visible mouthpiece, and says to those who are privileged to represent him upon the earth, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations." It continues, "The Lord breaks down our organization instructions further and makes them more practicable by further instructing us through his faithful and wise servant. He says, let us assign the field, the world, to special pioneers, regular pioneers, and companies of Jehovah's Witnesses in an orderly way, sufficient for everyone to thoroughly witness therein, and let us place upon each one the responsibility of caring for the New World interests in these respective assignments." He says, "The requirements for special pioneers shall be 175 hours and 50 back calls per month, which should develop into a reasonable number of studies, and for regular pioneers, 150 hours and as many back calls and studies as can be properly developed during that time. And for company publishers, he says, let us make a quota of 60 hours and 12 back calls and at least one study a week for each publisher. These directions come to us from the Lord through his established agency directing what is required of us. And for those who really love the Lord and are guided by his counsel, that is a reasonable service requirement. This expression of the Lord's will should be the end of all controversy. It is for your good that these requirements are made, for thereby you are enabled to prove your integrity and magnify the Lord's name. These directions from the Lord come to us as individuals and as collective units called companies. Wow, 175 hours for special pioneers. 150 hours for regular pioneers, and 60 hours for publishers. And the Lord didn't stop at hours. He even relayed how many times the territory should be covered. The Lord, through his faithful and wise servant, now states to us, let us cover our territory 4 times in 6 months. That becomes our organization instructions and has the same binding force on us that his statement to the Logos had when he said, let us make man in our image. It is our duty to accept this additional instruction and obey it. But someone will say, the conditions are different. In the case of the Logos, he could accomplish what Jehovah commanded him to do. But when it comes to covering our territory 4 times in 6 months, that is out of all reason. We have never covered it more than once or, at the most, twice in 6 months. It just can't be done. We have all heard that argument before, and if it were true, it would look bad indeed, and would imply that the Lord was asking us to do something that is impossible for us to accomplish. The children of Israel walked around Jericho 7 times the last day. The territory now being covered 1 to 2 times in 6 months could very easily be covered 4 to 6 times in the same period if everyone took his kingdom responsibilities seriously. The following year, in the 1944 yearbook, the organization chastised the pioneers that did not meet the arbitrary hour requirement that supposedly came from the Lord. It is to be observed that the general pioneer publishers put in only 111.8 hours per month on the average, whereas the requirement is 150 hours. There are quite a number of pioneers on the list who are not able to meet the required number of hours because of old age and sickness, and thus the average of hours is down. Some of these brethren have been pioneers for many, many years, and because of their faithful and continued service, will not be removed from the list. It is hoped that during the coming year, the general average of these pioneers will be increased. However, because there are many who can put in more hours than they plan in their daily routine, analyzing it briefly, 150 hours a month amounts to only 5 hours of field service a day. This is not much when one considers what the devil's organization requires of an individual. Can you imagine getting chewed out for a volunteer work? But that ridiculously high hour requirement only lasted another few years. The 1949 yearbook, speaking of the previous year, said this: it was announced that beginning January 1st, 1948, the Society would reduce the pioneer requirements for regular pioneers from 150 hours to 120 hours per month, or 1,400 hours per year. It was the belief of the president that after the brethren had thought this matter over carefully, there would be a good increase in the number of pioneers for 1948. This proved to be true. During the year, a total of 2,147 new general pioneers were enrolled. Isn't it funny how the Lord's hour requirements were overruled by the president of the organization?
Truly, Jehovah is speeding up the work.
Ah, yes. The work has been speeding up. Look at how many times over the decades they've said that Jehovah is speeding up the work.
It's experiences like the ones we've just listened to that help us to see that Jehovah is truly speeding up the work.
Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering work, and this makes us very happy.
But seeing how Jehovah is speeding things up and caring for his servants' needs in this crowded city,
2019, organized to do Jehovah's will. It is obvious that Jehovah is indeed speeding up the ingathering. 2018 July Watchtower. It is very exciting to see how Jehovah is speeding up the work. 2016 yearbook. How thrilling it is to see that Jehovah has been speeding up the worldwide expansion of true worship. 2015 February Kingdom Ministry. Jehovah is speeding up the kingdom preaching work during this time of the end. 2013 July Kingdom Ministry. As prophesied, Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering. 2011, February Kingdom Ministry. Truly, Jehovah is speeding up the work of gathering disciples in our time. 2009, December Kingdom Ministry. Truly, Jehovah is speeding up the work in its own time. 2007, September Kingdom Ministry. Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering. 2007, July Kingdom Ministry. This system of things is winding down, but our work of preaching and teaching is speeding up. 2006, December Kingdom Ministry. With Jehovah speeding up the final spiritual harvest, there is much work for which to volunteer. 2001, January 15th, Watchtower. Unquestionably, this confirms that Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering of true worshippers before the outbreak of the Great Tribulation, now so near at hand. 1996 Yearbook. The prospect for speeding up the work is bright. With the use of our new knowledge book, none of us can determine how long the door of opportunity will remain open for sheep-like persons to enter the safety of our spiritual paradise. 1996 February Kingdom Ministry. Reports show that Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering of sheep-like ones. 1995 Yearbook. Jehovah is truly speeding it up. 1995, September 1st, Watchtower. The outstanding increases reported around the world are evidence that Jehovah is speeding it up in its own time. 1995, August Kingdom Ministry. What satisfaction it brings to a dedicated Christian when he thus cooperates with Jehovah's speeding up of the ingathering work. 1995, August 15, Watchtower. Jehovah is now speeding things up at the proper time. 1994, May 1st, Watchtower. As Jehovah long ago promised, at Isaiah 60 verse 22, he is surely speeding up the work in its own time. 1993 Proclaimer's Book. As the scriptures had foretold, Jehovah was truly speeding up the work of ingathering. 1993, January 1st, Watchtower. Speeding it up. The ingathering accelerates as the end of Satan's system approaches. This speeding up is reflected marvelously in the 1992 Service Year Report. 1992, August 1st, Watchtower. Clearly, Jehovah is speeding things up and his blessing is upon the efforts of his people. 1992, January 15, Watchtower. Today, Jehovah is speeding up the gathering of sheep-like ones into his expanding organization. 1990, January Kingdom Ministry. Now that Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering of sheep-like ones, many of us are calling on our neighbors more often. 1989, November 1st, Watchtower. Yes, Jehovah was speeding up the work in its own time, so further expansion of the branch facilities was inevitable. The newly dedicated buildings stand as a testimony to Jehovah's speeding up the ingathering during the anti-typical festival of booths. 1988, July 15, Watchtower. Jehovah is now speeding up the ingathering of sheep-like ones. Surely then, this is no time for his people to slow down in their kingdom preaching and disciple-making work. 1987, May 15th, Watchtower. Truly, the prophecy of Isaiah 60 verse 22 is having its fulfillment. Jehovah is speeding up his preaching and ingathering work in its own time, and now is that time. 1985 Yearbook. Jehovah is speeding up the increase. Truly, Jehovah is speeding up the increase in its time. Thrilling events are taking place as Jehovah is speeding up the grand ingathering of his sheep-like ones. 1985, March 1st, Watchtower. Speeding it up. Jehovah adds a third part to his promise. I myself, Jehovah, shall speed it up in its own time. As we stand at the brink of the Great Tribulation, the time for this is now. 1984, September Kingdom Ministry. Jehovah is speeding up things toward a climax before the outbreak of the Great Tribulation. 1984, May Kingdom Ministry. Jehovah is speeding up the kingdom work. 1984, January Kingdom Ministry. Do not those prophetic words of Isaiah thrill and inspire us? They surely do. Jehovah's prophet went on to say that the small one will become a mighty nation. I myself, Jehovah, shall speed it up in its own time. These are exciting times in view of the growth within Jehovah's organization. Think of the privilege of being a part of the even larger attendance expected for over 100 Kingdom Increase District Conventions planned for this summer, and of hearing how Jehovah is speeding up the kingdom work and about the share we each can have in it before the end comes. 1983, July 15, Watchtower. Reports from the field show that as we approach the end, Jehovah is speeding it up in its own time. 1983, April Kingdom Ministry. Let us continue to show by our vigorous support of all features of the ministry that we are grateful to Jehovah for speeding up the kingdom work. 1980 Yearbook, speeding it up in its own time. Although the ingathering of the other sheep had made steady progress from 1963 to 1966, it can be said that Jehovah now really began speeding it up in its own time. 1978 January 1st Watchtower. In some regions where there are no witnesses, the angels seem to find other means of speeding up the work of ingathering. 1976 Yearbook. Jehovah is speeding up his work in this country. 1974 Yearbook. Jehovah's Witnesses are very much alive and very active in this difficult field. They are exerting themselves and giving the witness and making disciples. They can see that Jehovah is speeding up the work and are confident that he will open up the hearts of many more sheep-like ones to learn the truth. There is a fine potential for further increasing among the many new ones now associating. As for our dear brothers behind the bamboo curtain, we can remember them in our prayers before Jehovah. Once in a while, word comes through that lets us know they are keeping their integrity in that land. Whether a further witness will be given in China or not before the Great Tribulation breaks, we must leave in the hands of our loving God Jehovah. 1974, December 15th, Watchtower. Speeding up the discipling work in France. Speeding it up. The work of making disciples is certainly being sped up in France. 1974, May Kingdom Ministry. We are very much aware of the rapid growth in the size and number of our congregations. Everywhere, it seems, new kingdom halls are being built, and in many cases they soon become overcrowded. It is as foretold. Jehovah is speeding up the ingathering in this time of the end. 1974, January 15th, Watchtower. Are you keeping close in mind that fiery day of Jehovah? Is it so real to you that you can see it clearly, immediately ahead of you? According to the Kingdom Interlinear translation of the Greek scriptures, that expression, keeping close in mind, is speeding up, so we should not be slowing it down. That is, not looking at Jehovah's day as a long way off and putting it off. 1973 June Kingdom Ministry. As the end draws near, Jehovah is indeed speeding up the increase. 1971, February 1st, Watchtower. With the pace of response from the proclamation of the good news of the kingdom rapidly increasing, it is clearly evident that this is the time when Jehovah is speeding up the growth of his earthly organization. 1969 Yearbook. As Jehovah is speeding up the work, we should take advantage of every opportunity to witness incidentally. 1946, June 15 Watchtower. All of us rejoiced at the Lord's provision for the speeding up and enlarging of the work in this republic, namely, by the establishment of a branch office here to directly supervise the work. They said it so many times. The phrase has become meaningless, useless, just like the statistics Mark Sanderson gave without context. I was looking at the 2022 figures that were just released, and if anything, they certainly do not show an organization that is speeding up. Compared to last year, which wasn't a good year to begin with, Bible studies fell by 241,171, or minus 4%, as we've already discussed. There were 1,337 fewer congregations. Memorial attendance crashed by 1,645,931, minus 7.7%. Memorial partakers increased to 21,150. Peak publishers barely increased, up 12,068. 0.1%, which was below even the natural growth rate in 2022. Baptisms fell to 145,552 from 171,393 in 2021, which was already low. The number of pioneers went up in 2022, but that's what happens when you remove the hour requirement. The announced reduction in the hour requirement will help stem the bleed this year. Do you see how they try to massage the stats by changing criteria, like when they started counting doorstep return visits as Bible studies, or how publishers now only need a few minutes per month to still be counted as a publisher, or how the number of baptism questions were cut back, or how they can be counted as an auxiliary pioneer for as little as 15 hours on certain months, or how standing completely useless next to a cart in pairs or groups counts as service. Such urgency. Truly, Jehovah is speeding up their work in these last days.
Thank you
for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Special thanks to to Global Demise, Hello There, D Perez 578, and Teresa Sin for the YouTube super thanks, and to Richard Spears, Apollyon 27, and an anonymous supporter for the coffee. And as always, a big thank you to everyone for watching. See you in the next video!